Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna so that tune that we just finished playing is called, I call it The Opening, and it's a song that I wrote after, like, this whole band and this whole, like, my story that, you know, I've been sharing a lot, like, since starting this band, almost every show, is back in 2014, I've been working in social services quite a lot, different organizations, and kind of following the same path that my mom did after she got sober and got us out of CFS. Me and my sisters were in there, and I kind of remember being in the group home, but my sisters remember a lot more. So my sister Serena is older. She's 15 or 5 years older than I am, and so this band started in 2014, and that's where I went to my first sweat lodge. And I was working for an organization. I was working with kids that couldn't. The kids were kind of sentenced to being with me. That was their sentence, because they're under the age of 12, and it was called Project Turnaround, or it was from a turnaround. And I guess they call it that because they're for kids that are under the age of 12 that are committing crimes, and they're, you know, when they're getting involved with the law, you know, they would have to join a turnaround type program. And so I was working at an Indigenous organization at the time, and that one, it was called Ganakanegic, and was started by a woman named Leslie Spillett in Winnipeg. And if I were in Winnipeg playing to the same crowd, when I say Leslie Spillett, everyone would be like, woo! Because she's super well known. She's been in the community so long, started this organization. She has her own story, which is amazing. But so I ended up working there, but it was the first time I'd worked in an Indigenous organization, and my path, it seems, once I hit music, my path always kind of put me where I was alone, where I was the only Indigenous person in the room. And even in grade 8, grade 9, I'd have people, grade 10, high school, they'd be like, Chuck, you're so cool for an Indian. Or like, I remember after playing a solo at this one, when I was young, in grade 8, and it was for the community, there was a lineup of people that came up, and I swear there was 2 or 3 people that were like, for an Indian, this is so good that you can do this. And I joke about this now, where I'd be like, if someone came, like, say one of you came up to me later and said, for an Indian, you know, And it wouldn't just end with that. I feel like there'd be more to that story, and I don't know what it would look like. But back then, I accepted that, and that's the community I grew up in Kenora. Just that was an accepted thing to say at the time. So my mom ended up in running the detox in Kenora for a long time, and she actually started the first Indigenous-run. I should remember what it's called if I'm going to talk about it, but I can't remember what it's called. But it was a shelter for battered women, and it was all Indigenous. It was for Indigenous women, and that was the first time. Apparently, that was a huge deal because it was the first time that was available to only Indigenous people, and there was a lot of stuff that she did, but I don't understand how her story goes from dropping out of school and all this stuff to all of a sudden running the detox. That was always a mystery to me, but I just hung out there all the time, so I was always hanging out in the detox. And my first social services job after I did get sober was at the AFM treatment center, where I went to 3 times, and because I went 3 times, I wasn't so good at that sobering up part, but so I was sober 3 years, and then they invited me back to work there, and I worked there for a long time. And then Main Street Project, there was a string of social services jobs that I ended up at, and I looked at that after I had dealt with a lot of stuff that I was carrying. The first level of healing that I did, just enough to get sober. Part of that was realizing what a good job my mom did. Because up that time I was just like, I had a kind of more an addict mentality, which is like, what a terrible job the world is doing at making me feel good, that I have to go and use drugs and alcohol all the time. Once I realized that the job, I'm responsible. I have to take responsibility for my feelings and my thoughts, and I got to ask for help with that. That was a really hard thing for me to do. So I ended up following the same path as my mom. So yeah. But I'm kind of talking a lot about my story. But that song basically was my first sweat lodge, working in this for kids who I didn't think I would, like, I grew up, when I got into drugs and alcohol, I didn't think that I was suitable for kids. Like, I didn't think, I was like, keep those kids away from me, man. I'm not good. But that was the way that I viewed myself. And I remember telling the people at the job that I was like, I don't know if I'm very good with kids. I don't have kids. I don't have a good success record with hanging out with kids. And because I'd never try it. And they were like, we think you're good with kids, so we're going to hire you anyways. And I was like, okay, if that's what you think, I'll try it. And I ended up actually being good at that job. Yeah. So my job at that place was to expose them to culture. And I hadn't gone to a sweat lodge, and I didn't participate in culture at the time because I always felt apart. And so when it became a part of my job, I was like, well, I guess I'll do it, and I didn't think that it was going to change anything about me. I thought I had already changed enough because I got sober, and I was sober a long time and all this stuff. But once I did that, did that sweat, and I went to a sweat so that those kids would go. That was my reason. Once I went in there, I just started going like every single week. Sometimes I go multiple times a week. The most I ever went was 6 nights in a row. I was at every sweat lodge, it seemed, in Winnipeg for like 2 years. It's like straight. That's all I did. And I had so much time back then. Like, how did I do that? I don't know. I think I just worked and did ceremony for a long time. But what started happening is the reason why I would do that is because I started feeling really comfortable, and something changed inside of me. I didn't know that I was uncomfortable walking around. I didn't know that I felt alone. I didn't know all these things. But the sweat started teaching me those things. The teachings starting to really believe that that spirit door and I started fire keeping like all the time. Someone taught me how to build a sweat lodge fire, and I was just like, yeah, man. And I started doing that all the time, and all these different elders with different teachings and all this stuff. But I just really believed that the fire was healing me while I was building it. Like, I would start the lodge, I'd show up way earlier than everybody else, and I just loved starting the lodge and arranging the rocks and making sure like the whole sweat is going to be run nicely and that I'm doing everything I should be doing, all this kind of stuff. I think that started bringing me another level of healing, because we're opening the door to the spirit world, and that's what these songs are about. And so the first sweat I had, I heard that melody, and the words to it are Shagwe na Moyan, Wibin Degayon. And my mom told me that those words would describe someone who is shy and inviting them in. And the elder that sang that song at my first sweat, he sings it every single sweat. And so that was like 20 years, how long ago? He's been doing sweats for way longer than that, but he would always explain it the same way. Like, we're just kind of using that song to invite the spirits in so that they can come and start healing us. And I've experienced that healing. And so after I started writing music again, after that lodge, somewhere in there, all the sweat lodges, everything, these songs started kind of creeping into my writing as I was writing music. And there was a period there where I was like, well, I'll play the melody and I'll play these chords, but I'm never going to play this in public for people because I'm not allowed. Because I was thinking, I'm not, I never grew up around a drum, so I'm not allowed to do those songs. I'm not allowed to. I just had all this stuff going on in my mind. I was just like, I'm not allowed. And then I had a friend who just said, well, what if, like, Chuck, you're a melody carrier. Like, you've been carrying melodies for years. You just happen to do it on your trumpet. But I hear you play. I hear the way that you play. I hear the music that you make. And melodies just come from you. So yeah, that's like, I'm really grateful for that. But when I heard that, I was like, yeah, I guess I can't really help. And I feel good playing music. Like, I feel like this is what I should be doing. When I'm playing with these guys, these guys I'm just providing this structure. I'm just kind of choosing some chords. And I don't choose what they play. And every time that we play together, like tonight's the third gig out of 4 nights, everything's, slightly different from last night when we played in Toronto, slightly different from Wednesday. So I've just kind of provided this structure, and I have this group of friends that are like, yeah, I'll play those songs, and they play with me, but it just sounds really, really good together. And we're all just kind of, melodies are coming from inside of us. Like, we have this structure, but we're all just, yeah, that's where it's all coming from here. So, yeah. I'm going to play Nothing Simple. Skip appetites. So this next song I'm going to play is called Nothing Simple. This one I just wrote last year after my relationship split up with the mother of my kids. And this is the first song that I wrote. And so I wanted to kind of capture something that's beautiful, but also kind of is a little bit like, kind of creates a little bit of a question as to kind of what's going on. That's what I like about it. And so yeah, we'll present it. break. I think we'll just play one more tune. This one is called Footprints, and it's by Wayne Shorter. I'm really happy for remembering that because I've been saying Freddie Hubbard all week. And I'm sorry to Wayne Shorter, but Freddie Hubbard did play on the recording that I liked of this song, which is why I play it with my group. And yeah, we do a good high tempo version of this that Victor came up with the groove. I was like, we're gonna play Footprints. Victor, can you come up with something just a little bit different? And this is what he came up with, and so we just went with that. Thank you very much. We're just going to take a short break. I think I'm going to get a tattoo. Which is just typical for jazz breaks, I guess. Victor already got a tattoo. I don't know if you want to show everybody, but he got a Chilean symbol. And maybe I'll just introduce everybody. It's Victor Lopez on guitar, Kyle Wedlake on saxophone, Justin Alcock on the drums, and Hello. Oh, there we go. Thank you very much. That song was called Appetites, and that one is off an EP that I recorded quite a while ago, but it's one of the first tunes that I wrote when I started this group. And it's based on I was listening to NWA, and it was a song called Appetites for Destruction. And I really liked the sounds and the groove that was there, so I kind of just altered it a bit and made it into that groove. But then I also noticed while I was writing that Herbie Hancock's Maiden Voyage fits with it pretty nicely, so I just kind of just attached them together, just made this big song. So yeah, NWA and Herbie Hancock. I like that one. Together at Last, I like that. So yeah, the next tune we're going to play is called Arvo, and this one I wrote I was listening to a lot of Arvo Pärt, so this is inspired by that, although it doesn't sound like Arvo Pärt, and but yeah, so I decided to still call it Arvo. Thank you very much. Again, Victor Lopez on guitar. He's doing a great job. Um, Justin Alcock on drums. Ashley Au on bass, and Kyle Wedlake on saxophone. And I'm feeling very proud of these guys because they're playing so well, like very, very well. I kind of felt like Donald Trump a little bit there, just very, very well. Yeah, when we came to sound check this morning, it was looking really different. I guess there was a round dance last night, and there was this really small bass amp. And we like plugged it in for Ashley, and we were, how loud does that go? And it's like this tiny little thing, and it's just like. I was like, oh, I don't know. But then a really nice big amp was brought, and slowly the room just started kind of changing and morphing. And I found one of these lamps was sitting over there, and I was like, you know what? I really want to put that lamp in the middle. And I was like, this stage would be so awesome with one lamp. And then we went back to the hotel, and then I came back, and I was like, holy man, there's like a lot of lamps. And then I just asked, could I still have the one in the middle? And but no, this is a really amazing stage, and it's gonna be, yeah, this is awesome. And you guys, I'm so grateful that you guys came. Just to share this music with us, and share, feel whatever you're feeling, and being such a good crowd, and yeah, I'm gonna remember this one for sure. This one's one of those gigs for sure. Maybe I'll put it on my rider. I want tattoos. So this next tune we're going to play is called Hug Room, and this one's off my new recording. Unfortunately, I don't have any CDs right now. I think I'm going to order some when I get back. It just came out on September 29th, and I've been really grateful for how it's being received by people. The songs where I'm singing on the recording. I was really nervous about doing those songs and releasing the recording and the reception that was going to get. So I released some other videos, and I always explain that when I'm, that the songs that I'm presenting that are from ceremony are from my personal experience in ceremonies. Like, these are a part of my musical journey, and it isn't something in my spiritual journey and my healing journey. Like, it's a part of the whole thing, and it's not, it's not something that I'm like, wouldn't that be just cool to do that melody? Like it's not coming from a place of just kind of, I don't know. The reason why I felt like that I have to do those melodies is because of the closeness and the inspiration and the part of my journey that those melodies are like represent. So I'm not sure if there's going to be more, jazz songs that I write that have indigenous melodies in there, or spiritual melodies. But if I do, I think I would collaborate with someone who wants to collaborate with me and create these things together. But yeah, this song comes from that new album, and this one is called Hug Room. And I wrote this song kind of thinking about when I used to go to a lot of parties in Vancouver when I lived out there, and I started jamming with my friends, and I was thinking that they were so lucky to have a trumpet player to jam with them. But really, I was super struggling with drugs and alcohol through that whole period, and I was lucky to have friends to support me and play music with me, because that carried me through. And I don't think I'd be here without music. Like I think at numerous times in my journey, alcohol and drugs would have just taken me out of there. And I was in a drug house trying to sell my trumpet before I moved to Winnipeg. And it's a ridiculous thing to try to trade for drugs, because nobody knows what it is. and I was like, what are you doing? Get this thing out of here. And so I'm glad that didn't work out, because I couldn't afford another trumpet at the time. And I'm glad everything worked out so that I can so you're back to the song. This song is, I was trying to create the kind of going to a rave, and there's a side room where people go to chill out. There's down-tempo music. There's music that's kind of like, woo, and really trippy. And what I would end up doing in those rooms is having these long conversations. And I remember just like thinking the next day after I got sober, I was like, why was I hugging? I was hugging that random person. Like, we were like really close at that time. And I have no idea who that is. But I was under the influence and I was feeling it. So that's kind of what I'm trying to create with this song. Thank you. We're gonna play. We got a few more here. I think I'm gonna do another cover song that actually kind of came a little bit similarly to the to Footprints, where I was like, I want to do a different song by Freddie Hubbard. It's definitely by Freddie Hubbard, and I was like, hey Victor, do you think you could come up with something that? And he was like, okay. And so yeah, this is what he came up with, a groove, and then we built this groove together, and it's called Little Sunflower, and it's from an album called Backlash, which is one of the first recordings in grade 8 when I started playing trumpet. And my stepdad Peter had a whole bunch of really good old jazz records. And I just went looking for all the trumpet players in there, and I was just like, oh, let's listen to this one. Nope. And then listen to this one. And Backlash, this album really, some of the songs on there really struck me, and I started trying to play them. I was like, which notes, which button is going to get that note? And I had 3 to choose from. And so, yeah. And then, you know, things just kind of built from there. But I really like to play these songs that I first started, that started really just looping me in, especially Freddie Hubbard. If any of you aren't familiar with Freddie Hubbard, he's just an amazing trumpet player. And yeah, it's called Little Sunflower. Thank you very much. Um, I'm just. Let me just check the time. Sorry. I think we probably only have time for one more song. So this song is called Creator, and this is kind of more what I was talking about earlier. This song, this melody, came from an elder named Neil Hall in Saugeen, which is north of Manitoba, on the Winnipeg River, and we're in Lake Winnipeg. And that's kind of the general area where I ended up for ceremony. There's this one road called Highway 59 that goes north, and for some reason this place called Lebo and Saugeen, there's just all these sweat lodges up there. I don't know how that worked out, but that's where I was always going. It was up 59 to different places. But I started hearing this song in the first while that I went to sweat lodges, and I always just thought it was the most beautiful melody, and such a complete melody, and it always brought. It was just a powerful melody, in the ceremony, and lots of people knew this song, so everybody would start singing. If maybe there was people that didn't know all the songs, this one a lot of people know, and so they would all join in. So that when someone started singing it in a lodge, it would bring a lot of out of people when it's all dark and it's a healing round maybe, and people are letting go, like they're there to do what they need to do and let go. And I really think, this melody, the way that it is it kind of gets that out of people. And an elder that I know named Wilfred Buck told me that he was doing a tour in Germany, and he saw these guys doing a mock powwow and kind of dressing up and doing their thing, and they were singing this song, and he said, yeah, this song has kind of traveled, all over the place. And so, yeah, this is another one that I started learning, started writing music, and it's on my new recording. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is just kind of the name of my recording. It's called Oshki Manitou, and it's named after my son, and his name ended up being Oshki Gnu after the recording. We did the naming ceremony. The elder said, "Oh, his name is New Eagle," and But when I was working on the songs for this, my mom was still alive at the time, and it was around 2017, 2018. And I asked her, how do you say New Spirit? Because I started thinking that this one song kind of sounded like how sounds would come through if you were in the womb. And I was, at the time, my little boy was like still in there. And I can even recreate the size, because anyways, he he was still like in there, but in my partner at the time. And I remember thinking, well, I wanted to dedicate my recording to my son. So I asked my mom, how do you say New Spirit? So I was thinking, this new spirit is coming from the Creator, and these are all the things that I'm learning, like the source, that source of all life, where all this, the spirit world, and I was like, yeah, I want to name my recording and dedicate it to him. So she told me that she would say, New Spirit, Oshki Manitou. So that's what my recording is, and it's finally here. That was I think it was about 2018. So it took a while to get this recording done, and it actually wouldn't have gotten done if I didn't play at the Inspire Awards, and I met this woman named Keely Kemp who offered to be my manager after a time. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know what that meant, really. And what I was doing to get ahead in music wasn't working. Like I wasn't able to get grants done. I wasn't able, and be a father, having 2 kids, 1 and then 2, and I couldn't book gigs, I couldn't do all these things, and she was like, I'll help you with that. So the first thing that her and her partner started doing was just applying for grants, and so they got all these grants together, and it just paid for this whole awesome recording, and I'm super proud of it, and I'm super grateful for that assistance, but it took me a long time to accept it. I guess I was just like doing it on my own for so long, and a lot of things I have trouble asking for help. I have trouble, sometimes I think my feelings come second. Like I'm here to help people. I'm not here to get helped, which is some kind of Rambo mentality that I don't, whatever, I help you. But, it just, it's only working to a point. And another thing I'll share is I found it super funny. I'm coming here to play a show. I'm coming here to play music. I met Michelle right away within minutes after being here. And I was like, I need a vape. So she's like, well, I'll drive you to get a vape. And then we were talking. And she was like, I'm picking up all this energy from you, and that there's sadness. And I was like, whoa, what am I here for? But we started talking, and I started realizing some things. And I guess I am at a point where I need to just kind of grow more. And yeah, and then when I got back, I'm blanking. Bob was here. His name is Bob Pheasant. And he can't, because I'd inquired about a lodge kind of nonchalantly, like, is there a lodge that, because in Winnipeg there's a lot of lodges that just happen all the time or every week or whatever. I thought maybe there's a weekly lodge or something like that. But then I also remember there were times when people also request sweats when they're having a really difficult time. So I didn't think that I'm really having a difficult time, but Bob kind of decided to share some medicine with me, as well as Michelle. And this experience has kind of turned into like, let's help Chuck, and let's give him medicine for his leg because his leg's sore. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good to me. And so I had to get some tobacco. I was like, I don't have no tobacco. I wasn't like coming here for healing, but that's what I got, So I got fanned down, and my band, Bob invited my band to come in. I was just sharing a little bit about what the problem could be, or what, and things are coming out. Yeah. And so I quit my job this year. I decided I'm going to do music full time, and I think I'm in a good position to do that. And I'm really grateful for these gigs. Just kind of, I think it just kind of proves to myself, to me, that this is what I really want to do. I want to play music. I want to tell stories. I really like talking. I was saying, we've got 45 minutes. I got to maybe talk a little bit more, be prepared. And it is called the Storytellers Festival. And my band is like, you got this, Chuck. Like, don't worry about it. like, yeah, I probably do. So again, I'm going to play this last song for you guys. And I really appreciate you guys again for staying and for listening and for being so nice, so supportive and everything. So I do have T-shirts. This is the first time that I've had T-shirts. It's the design on the T-shirt. Oh no, you're not wearing it. Oh, you don't have to. No, you don't. You don't. Oh, okay. So Victor, it's a sacred fire. So when I was talking to the artist in Winnipeg, her name's Roberta Landreth, and her husband is part of the Landreth brothers. I'm not sure if you know who the Landreth brothers. Oh, she's a Juno-winning designer, but she's amazing. I just described to her the sacred fire and how it is to be a firekeeper, what happens, and And she came up with this design for the fire. And to me, it looks like there's a grandfather in there in the middle. And, the fire. But that's just kind of the part of the album cover. The rest of the album cover has all the flames. I described, how spirits are in there, our ancestors, and that come to help us. And she came up with this design. I remember her first showing. I was just like, holy man, it's this. So the flames grow and it expands, but all the clans are in there. Like, she put pictures of the clans, and there was. There's my clan, which is Elk Clan. And then there's Lynx Clan, which is my mom's clan. That's Wob Canoe's clan. They're from the same family. That's how we're related, is through that clan, through the Lynx Clan or Pijou Clan. And then she put Sturgeon Clan. There's a butterfly in there, and there was like spirits in there, and it was just a beautiful album cover. I think. So yeah, that's where that shirt design came from. So. Yeah, and anywhere that you can listen to music, you can go listen to my album. And thank you again.